The morning sun cast long shadows across the mining colony of Kepler 442b as Jake Morrison checked the daily work schedules. The red dirt beneath his boots had become as familiar as home over the past 3 years. Around him, the settlement buzzed with quiet activity as miners prepared for another day of extracting precious metals from the planet's rich deposits. Lisa Harper wiped grease from her hands as she finished repairing the main excavator. The machine had been acting up for weeks, but her skilled touch kept it running. She called out to Jake that the equipment was ready for the morning shift. Her voice carried the easy confidence of someone who knew every bolt and gear in the colonies. Machinery. Ben Carter emerged from the small medical station, stretching his back after a long night treating a miner's broken arm. The accident had been minor, but it reminded everyone how dangerous their work could be. Still, the colonists had grown comfortable with the risks of mining life. They had no idea that far greater dangers were approaching from the stars above. Amy Rodriguez monitored the communication arrays from the central hub. The daily check-in with Earth was routine, but she took pride in maintaining the colony's connection to home. Her screens showed nothing unusual in the surrounding space. The nearest shipping lane was weeks away, and no vessels were scheduled to arrive for another month. Danny Foster joined Amy at the communication station, bringing her morning coffee. As the colony's other tech specialist, he helped maintain the systems that kept their small world running. Together, they had built a network that could reach across the galaxy when needed. Neither suspected they would soon need to send the most important message of their lives. The first sign of trouble came at midday. Amy's sensors detected multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. The vessels were unlike anything in the colonial database. Their design was angular and predatory, with weapon systems that seemed built for hunting rather than warfare. The ships moved with purpose toward the planet. Jake received the alert while inspecting the outer mining sites. His stomach dropped as he read Amy's message. Unknown ships, military configuration, heading straight for their colony. He ordered all workers to return to the main settlement immediately. The colonists had drills for emergencies, but they had never faced anything like this. The alien ships entered the planet's atmosphere with a thunderous roar. They were massive, easily 10 times larger than the colony's small transport vessels. As they descended, the colonists could see their reptilian design and the weapon ports that lined their hulls. These were not trading ships or explorers. They were predators. The largest ship landed just outside the colony's perimeter. Its hull was dark green with silver markings that seemed to shift in the light. Smaller vessels took positions around the settlement, creating a perfect circle of containment. The colonists watched in stunned silence as landing ramps lowered and the aliens emerged. The creatures that stepped onto Kepler 442b were unlike anything the humans had ever seen. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, with scaled skin that ranged from deep green to bronze. Their heads were elongated, with rows of sharp teeth visible when they spoke. Most disturbing were their eyes, which held an intelligence that seemed to evaluate everything as potential prey. The alien leader approached the colony's main gate with confident strides. His scales were darker than the others, and elaborate markings covered his arms and chest. When he spoke, his voice carried through speakers built into his armor. The words were translated by the colony's computers, but the meaning was clear. Enough without translation. "I am War Chief Kelthic of the Vorthic Empire," the alien announced. "You humans have been selected for the Great Hunt. Your species shows promise as worthy prey. You should feel honored." His reptilian features twisted into what might have been a smile. "We have studied your kind from afar. You are clever enough to provide sport, yet weak enough to be properly hunted." Jake stepped forward, trying to keep his voice steady. "We're just miners here. We don't want any trouble with your people." He gestured to the settlement around them. "We're not soldiers or warriors. We're just trying to make a living." Kelthek's laugh was a harsh sound that made the colonists step back. "That is what makes you perfect prey, human. You will run, you will hide, you will fight desperately for your lives. This is the essence of a proper hunt." He raised one clawed hand. "You have 72 hours to prepare." Use this time wisely. Sharpen your tools, plan your defenses, say your farewells. What exactly are you talking about? Jake demanded. What hunt? The Vorthak have hunted across 1,000 worlds, Kelthik explained with obvious pride. We seek the most challenging prey in the galaxy. Your species has caught our attention. You show creativity, determination, and the will to survive. These qualities make you valuable quarry. He gestured to his warriors. We will give you 3 days to prepare. Then we will hunt you down, one by one, until none remain. Ben stepped up beside Jake. You can't be serious. We're talking about murder here, genocide. We are talking about sport, Kelthik corrected. The greatest sport in the galaxy. Your deaths will have meaning. They will test our skills and provide entertainment for our people. Many species would consider this an honor. Amy's voice crackled over the communication system. Jake, I'm picking up transmissions from their ships. They're broadcasting this to other Vorthak vessels. This is some kind of show for them. Kelthik nodded approvingly. The young female understands. Yes, this hunt will be recorded and shared throughout our empire. Your struggles will be remembered long after your bones bleach in this planet's sun. He turned to address the entire colony. You may attempt to flee if you wish. Your small ships will provide an interesting chase through space. Or you may stay and fight. Either choice will prove entertaining. Jake felt the eyes of every colonist on him. These were good people, families who had come to this distant world seeking a better life. They had children, dreams, and hopes for the future. Now they faced an impossible choice against creatures who saw them as nothing more than prey animals. We need time to discuss this, Jake said finally. You have 72 hours, Kelthik repeated. Use them well. He turned and walked back toward his ship, his warriors following in formation. The aliens moved with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. As the alien ships lifted off to establish orbital positions, the colonists stood in stunned silence. The reality of their situation was beginning to sink in. They were trapped on a distant world with creatures who intended to hunt them for sport. Their only weapons were mining tools and a few security rifles. Their only hope was to find a way to survive against impossible odds. Jake looked at the frightened faces around him and made a decision that would change everything. They would not run. They would not hide. They would fight back with everything they had, and they would show these aliens what humans were truly capable of when pushed to their limits. The emergency meeting took place in the colony's main hall as the alien ships circled overhead like metal vultures. Jake stood before the assembled colonists, seeing fear in every face but also something else that gave him hope. These people had traveled across the galaxy to build new lives. They would not give up without a fight. We have 3 options, Jake began, his voice steady despite the circumstances. We can try to run in our transport ships and hope we outrun them in space. We can surrender and hope they show mercy. Or we can stay and fight with everything we have. He paused, letting his words sink in. I won't lie to you. None of these options are good. Lisa stood up from her seat near the front. What about our transport ships? Could we make it to the nearest human colony? Her mechanical expertise made her question, practical rather than hopeful. Amy shook her head from her position at the communication console. I've been monitoring their ships. They have faster engines and better weapons. If we run, they'll catch us in open space where we have no cover and no chance. Ben spoke up from the back of the room. What about calling for help? Can we reach the Earth Defense Force? Danny worked frantically at his communication equipment. I'm trying to boost our signal, but their ships are jamming most frequencies. Even if I get a message through, the nearest military unit is weeks away. We'd be dead long before help arrives. Jake nodded grimly. That leaves us with one choice. We fight. We use everything we know about this place and everything we can build to make them pay for every step they take. An older miner named Carl raised his hand. Jake, we're talking about fighting trained alien hunters with mining equipment. How is that supposed to work? The same way humans have always survived, Jake replied. We adapt, we use our brains. We work together. He gestured to the colony around them. "We know every tunnel, every building, every piece of equipment in this place." "They don't. We turn that knowledge into weapons." Lisa's eyes lit up with understanding. "The mining tunnels. They go for kilometers underground. If we could collapse certain sections, create choke points—" She trailed off, but her meaning was clear. Amy added, "The industrial equipment too. Excavators, haulers, even the processing machinery, we could modify them." Ben looked uncertain. "Are we really talking about turning our home into a battlefield?" "They already did that," Jake said. "Quietly. We're just deciding whether to fight back or die quietly." The vote was unanimous. Every colonist, even those with children, agreed to make their stand. They had 72 hours to prepare, and they would use every minute. The transformation began immediately. Lisa led teams to the heavy machinery, showing them how to modify excavators into mobile weapons platforms. The massive drills that carved through rock could do terrible damage to alien hunters. The haulers became armored vehicles, their cargo. Beds filled with improvised weapons and supplies. Amy and Danny worked to create a communication network throughout the colony. They strung cables through the mining tunnels, creating a system the aliens couldn't jam. Every defender would be able to coordinate with the others, turning individual fighters into a unified force. Ben organized the medical facilities, moving supplies into the deepest tunnels where they would be safe from alien weapons. He trained volunteers in basic first aid, knowing that every life saved would make their defense stronger. Jake coordinated everything, moving between groups and ensuring that their preparations worked together. He had been a soldier before becoming a miner, and those old skills came flooding back. The colony was becoming a fortress, and its people were becoming warriors. The first night passed in a blur of activity. Children helped where they could, while adults worked with desperate efficiency. The Vortex ships remained in orbit, occasionally sending scanning beams across the colony. The aliens were studying their prey, planning their hunt. On the second day, Danny achieved a breakthrough. He managed to intercept some of the alien communications, and the colony's computers slowly began to translate the Vortex language. What they learned was both encouraging and terrifying. "They're treating this like a game," Danny reported to Jake. "They're betting on how long we'll last and which of us will survive longest. They think we'll break and run within hours." Jake felt a cold smile cross his face. Let them think that. Overconfidence will make them careless. Lisa had been working nonstop on the defenses. She showed Jake her latest creation, a modified mining laser that could cut through the aliens' armor. "It's not pretty, but it should work. The power drain is huge, so we can only use it for short bursts." Amy had located the colony's emergency supplies, including cases of mining explosives. "We can set these up throughout the tunnels. Turn their own pursuit routes into traps." Ben had been thinking about the aliens themselves. "From what we've seen, they're bigger and stronger than us. But they're also used to hunting prey that runs. What if we don't run? What if we attack them instead?" Jake nodded. "That's exactly what we're going to do. Every tactical manual says the same thing. When you're outnumbered and outgunned, you change the rules of the game." The third day brought new challenges. The Vortex began sending small scout ships closer to the colony, testing the humans' defenses. Jake ordered everyone to remain hidden, letting the aliens think they were dealing with frightened prey. As the deadline approached, the colonists made their final preparations. Families said goodbye to each other, knowing that some might not survive the coming battle. Children were moved to the deepest parts of the tunnel system, where they would be as safe as possible. Jake stood in the colony's central square as the sun began to set. Around him, his people took their positions. They had transformed from peaceful miners into determined defenders. The colony itself had become a maze of traps and fortified positions. The Vortex ships began their descent as darkness fell. Their hulls glowed with weapon charges, and their engines roared like hungry beasts. The hunt was about to begin, but the aliens would soon discover that their prey had become predators. The humans of Kepler 442b were ready to show the galaxy what happened when you pushed humanity too far. The Vorthak had come expecting sport, but they were about to learn the true meaning of human determination. Jake gripped his weapon tighter and waited for the first alien hunter to step into their carefully prepared trap. The first Vorthak hunters descended from their ships like shadows in the pre-dawn darkness. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. Their thermal vision showed them the heat signatures of humans throughout the colony, and they expected this hunt to be over within hours. Jake watched from his hidden position as 3 alien warriors approached the main gate. Their scaled armor gleamed in the starlight and their weapons hummed with deadly energy. They moved in perfect formation, each covering the others as they advanced. These were skilled hunters, but they had never faced prey like this before. The first trap activated when the lead hunter stepped on a pressure plate Lisa had installed near the gate. The ground beneath his feet collapsed, dropping him into a pit lined with sharpened mining tools. His screams echoed through the colony as his companions rushed to help him. They never saw the second trap that Lisa had prepared, the modified mining. Laser cut through the night like a blade of pure energy. Amy operated it from a concealed position, targeting the aliens' weapon systems. The beam sliced through their armor like paper, and 2 more hunters fell before they could react. The remaining alien retreated in confusion, reporting to his ship that the humans were fighting back. From his command position in the tunnels, Jake listened to the alien communications that Danny had intercepted. The Vorthak were surprised by the resistance, but not yet concerned. They simply sent more hunters to deal with what they assumed was a temporary problem. The second wave of aliens approached more cautiously. They had learned from their companions' mistakes and moved with greater care. But the humans had prepared for this too. Ben had positioned himself with a group of volunteers in the medical station, which the aliens assumed would be filled with helpless prey when the hunters broke down. They found the room empty except for medical supplies. The real trap was in the floor beneath them. Lisa had rigged explosives under the building, and Ben triggered them as soon as the aliens entered. The explosion brought down half the structure. Burying the hunters under tons of rubble, the alien ship commanders began to take notice. What should have been a simple hunt was becoming a battle. They sent down heavier weapons and more experienced hunters, but the humans continued to surprise them with their tactics. Amy had been monitoring the alien communications from her position in the central hub. She reported to Jake that the Vorthak were starting to argue among themselves. Some wanted to call for more hunters, while others insisted that a few humans could not possibly defeat trained warriors. The third attack came from multiple directions. The aliens had learned that the humans were coordinating their defenses, so they tried to overwhelm them with numbers. 20 hunters approached the colony from different angles, expecting to catch the defenders off guard. Jake had anticipated this strategy. He ordered his people to fall back into the tunnel system, leading the aliens into the underground maze where their superior technology would be less effective. The narrow passages forced the hunters to move in single file, eliminating their numerical advantage. Lisa had spent days preparing the tunnel defenses. She had rigged collapsed sections that could be triggered remotely, creating instant barriers that separated the alien hunters from each other. When the Vorthak entered the tunnels, they found themselves trapped in a series of dead ends and kill zones. The fighting in the tunnels was brutal and close. The aliens' advanced weapons were less effective in the confined spaces, while the humans' knowledge of every passage and chamber gave them a crucial advantage. Danny coordinated the defense from his communication center, directing defenders to where they were needed most. Ben had prepared medical stations throughout the tunnel system. He moved between wounded defenders, treating injuries and keeping the human fighters in the battle. His calm presence and skilled hands saved lives that would have been lost in any other situation. The turning point came when Jake led a group of defenders in a direct assault on a trapped group of alien hunters. The humans had learned to work together in ways the individualistic Vorthak could not understand. They moved as a unit, each person covering the others and supporting the group's objectives. The battle was fierce but brief. The aliens used to hunting prey that ran from them, were unprepared for humans who attacked with coordinated fury. Jake's group killed 6 hunters and captured their weapons, which Amy quickly began to study and understand. The alien commanders in orbit watched their hunters die with growing disbelief. War Chief Kelthek received reports that made no sense to him. A small group of human miners were defeating his best warriors using primitive weapons and impossible tactics. Amy's breakthrough came when she successfully reverse-engineered one of the captured alien weapons. She showed the others how to modify their own equipment to use the alien power sources, dramatically increasing their effectiveness. The mining tools that had served as weapons were transformed into instruments of war. The fourth attack never came. The surviving alien hunters retreated to their ships, reporting that the humans were not the easy prey they had expected. The colony's defenders had killed or wounded nearly 40 hunters, while losing only 3 of their own people. Jake stood in the tunnels surrounded by his exhausted but victorious people. They had proven that humans could fight back against the galaxy's most feared predators. But he knew this was only the beginning. The aliens would not accept defeat so easily. Danny's communication equipment crackled with intercepted transmissions. The Vorthak were calling for massive reinforcements. What had begun as a simple hunt was becoming a military campaign. War Chief Kelthek's reputation was at stake, and he would not allow a few humans to destroy his standing in the Empire. Amy looked up from her work on the alien technology. Jake, they're bringing in everything they have. Ships, weapons, hundreds of hunters. This was just the first wave. Jake nodded grimly. Then we'll be ready for the next one. We've shown them that humans don't make easy prey. Now we'll show them. What happens when you push us too far? The colonists began preparing for the larger battle ahead. They had learned that they could fight and win against impossible odds. Soon, the entire galaxy would learn the same lesson about the indomitable human spirit. The reinforcements arrived 3 days after the first failed attacks. Jake watched from the observation post as ship after ship descended from the dark sky above Kepler 442b. The Vorthak had brought their entire hunting fleet, over 200 warriors armed with the most advanced weapons their empire could provide. War Chief Kelthek stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the small human colony below. His reputation was crumbling with each report of failed attacks. The other Vorthak nobles were already questioning his leadership, and some had begun to suggest that humans might not be suitable prey after all. Amy monitored the alien communications from her position deep in the tunnel system. The sheer volume of chatter told her everything she needed to know about the enemy's state of mind. They were angry, confused, and desperate to prove their superiority. That desperation would make them careless. Danny worked alongside Amy, recording every transmission and building a database of Vorthak tactical information. The aliens' communications were becoming less secure as their frustration grew. They were revealing weaknesses and battle plans that the humans could exploit. Ben had established a proper medical center in the deepest part of the mining complex. The 3 colonists wounded in the first battles were recovering well, and his preparations had saved lives that would have been lost in any other situation. He knew that the coming battle would test all of his skills. Lisa had been working non-stop to prepare new defenses. She had rigged the entire colony with explosives that could be triggered remotely, turning every building into a potential trap. Her modified mining equipment was now fully integrated with captured alien technology, creating weapons that neither side had ever seen before. The siege began at dawn. The Vorthak landed their ships in a perfect circle around the colony, establishing a perimeter that nothing could cross. They had learned from their previous mistakes and approached the human settlement with overwhelming force and careful planning. Jake coordinated the defense from his command post in the central tunnel complex. He had divided his people into small teams, each responsible for a different section of the defensive network. The humans would not try to hold ground against superior numbers. Instead, they would strike and retreat using their knowledge of the terrain to stay one step ahead of their enemies. The first assault came from all directions simultaneously. The Vorthak had abandoned their hunting traditions in favor of military tactics, sending waves of warriors toward the colony from every angle. They expected to crush the human resistance through sheer weight of numbers. The aliens met carefully, prepared defenses at every turn. Lisa's explosive traps turned the outer buildings into killing zones, while Amy's modified weapons picked off hunters from concealed positions. The humans fought with the desperation of people defending their homes and the intelligence of a species that had learned to adapt to any challenge, but the sheer number of attackers began to tell. The Vorthak pushed forward despite heavy losses, accepting casualties that would have broken any other force. They were fighting for more than victory now. They were fighting to restore their reputation as the galaxy's most feared predators. Jake ordered a fighting retreat into the tunnel system. The humans had prepared for this moment, creating a series of defensive positions that would force the aliens to pay for every meter of ground. The narrow passages neutralized the Vorthak's numerical advantage, while the colonists' intimate knowledge of the underground maze gave them crucial tactical benefits. The battle in the tunnels was unlike anything either side had experienced. The Vorthak, used to hunting in open spaces, found themselves trapped in a nightmare of narrow passages and hidden defenders. The humans struck from concealed positions, killed their targets, and vanished into passages the aliens couldn't follow. Amy had discovered something important about the alien technology. Their weapons were designed for hunting individual prey, not for the close-quarters combat they now faced. The power systems overheated quickly in the confined spaces, while the targeting systems couldn't lock onto fast-moving targets in the darkness. Danny's communication network allowed the human defenders to coordinate their attacks with perfect timing. A group of aliens pursuing one team of humans would find themselves ambushed by another group attacking from behind. The colonists fought as a single organism, each part supporting the others. Ben moved through the tunnels like a ghost, appearing wherever wounded defenders needed help. His medical skills kept the human force at fighting strength, while his calm presence reminded everyone that they were fighting for something greater than themselves. The turning point came when Lisa triggered the main explosive charges. She had spent days preparing a trap that would collapse key sections of the tunnel system, separating the alien forces and trapping large groups of hunters underground. The explosion shook the entire colony, but when the dust settled, over 60 Vorthak warriors were buried in the rubble. The psychological impact was immediate. The surviving aliens began to retreat, reporting to their commanders that the humans were using impossible tactics. The prey they had come to hunt was displaying intelligence and coordination that challenged everything the Vorthak thought they knew about warfare. War Chief Kelthik received the reports with growing fury. His warriors, the best the Empire had to offer, were being defeated by a handful of human miners. The other Vorthak leaders were already questioning his judgment, and some had begun to suggest that the hunt should be abandoned, but Kelthik could not accept defeat. He ordered his remaining forces to prepare for a final assault, using every weapon and warrior at his disposal. The hunt had become a matter of survival for the Vorthak Empire's reputation. They would either destroy the humans completely or face the consequences of failure. Jake sensed the change in the alien tactics. The communications Danny intercepted showed increasing desperation and anger. The Vorthak were preparing for one last, overwhelming attack that would determine the fate of everyone on Kepler-442b. The colonists prepared for what they knew would be the final battle. They had proven that humans could fight back against the galaxy's most feared predators. Now they would discover whether their courage and intelligence could overcome the full might of an alien empire that had never known defeat. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. The final battle began before dawn with the roar of Vorthak engines filling the air above. Kepler-442b, War Chief Kelthik had committed every ship and warrior to this assault. His empire's reputation depended on crushing the human resistance that had humiliated his hunters for weeks. Jake stood in the deepest part of the tunnel system, surrounded by his exhausted but determined people. They had fought impossible odds and survived, but everyone knew this would be their greatest test. The aliens were bringing everything they had in one desperate attempt to restore their honor. The ground shook as alien artillery bombarded the colony above. The Vorthak were no longer hunting for sport. They were fighting a war against enemies who had proven more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy had imagined. The careful preparations of weeks were being destroyed in minutes by overwhelming firepower. Amy worked frantically at her communication station as debris fell around her. She had detected something in the alien transmissions that gave her hope. Other species throughout the galaxy were monitoring this battle, and many were beginning to question the Vorthak Empire's claims of invincibility. Danny helped Amy maintain their equipment as the bombardment continued. His intercepted communications revealed that the alien commanders were arguing among themselves. Some wanted to retreat and preserve their remaining forces, while others demanded total victory regardless of the cost. Ben moved through the tunnels treating wounded colonists as the battle raged overhead. The falling debris had injured several people, but his quick action kept the casualties light. His calm presence reminded everyone that they were fighting not just for survival, but for the future of humanity in the galaxy. Lisa had prepared one final surprise for the aliens. Deep beneath the colony, she had rigged the main mining equipment with captured alien power sources. When triggered, the explosion would destroy everything within kilometers. It was a last resort that would take the Vorthak down with them if necessary. The alien ground assault began as their ships landed throughout the ruined colony. Hundreds of Vorthak warriors poured from their vessels, armed with weapons designed to level entire cities. They advanced with the confidence of predators who had finally cornered their prey, but the humans were not cornered. Jake led them through passages the aliens had never mapped, striking at enemy forces from unexpected directions. The colonists had become masters of their underground domain, turning every tunnel into a weapon against their enemies. The fighting was brutal and close. The Vorthak pushed forward despite horrific casualties, driven by desperation and the knowledge that failure would destroy their empire's reputation. They had come too far and lost too much to retreat now. War Chief Kelthek himself entered the tunnels, leading his personal guard in a final push toward the human command center. His reptilian features were twisted with rage as he realized that his prey had become predators. The humans had turned his hunt into a nightmare that would haunt the Vorthak for generations. Jake met the alien leader in the central tunnel complex. The two commanders faced each other in a passage carved from living rock, surrounded by the sounds of battle echoing through the darkness. This confrontation represented more than personal combat. It was a clash between two different ways of seeing the universe. Kelthek attacked with the fury of a creature whose entire worldview was crumbling. His claws and fangs were supplemented by advanced weapons that could cut through solid metal. He fought with the skill and experience of thousands of successful hunts, but Jake fought with something the alien could not understand. He fought for his people, for his home, and for the future of humanity among the stars. Every blow he struck was powered by the knowledge that defeat meant the death of everyone he cared about. The battle between the two leaders was fierce but brief. Jake's smaller size and human agility gave him advantages the larger alien could not counter. When Kelthek fell, his death cry echoed through the tunnels, carrying news of defeat to every Vorthak warrior in the complex. The alien assault collapsed with their leader's death. The surviving Vorthak retreated to their ships, carrying word of their impossible defeat to the commanders in orbit. The humans had done more than survive. They had broken the back of the galaxy's most feared predators. Amy's communication equipment burst to life with transmissions from across the galaxy. Species that had cowered before the Vorthak for centuries were expressing amazement at the human victory. The story was spreading faster than light, carried by traders and diplomats to every corner of known space. Danny picked up a new signal that made everyone in the tunnel system cheer. The Earth Defense Force had finally arrived, but their rescue mission had become a victory celebration. Admiral Patricia Stone's ships entered orbit to find the Vorthak fleet in full retreat. The aliens departed. Kepler 442b in shame, leaving behind the wreckage of their reputation. They had come to hunt humans for sport and instead discovered that Humanity possessed qualities that made them formidable opponents. A galaxy would never look at either species. The same way again, Ben emerged from the tunnels to help treat the alien wounded that had been left behind. His medical ethics demanded that he help anyone who needed it, regardless of species. This act of mercy impressed the few surviving Vorthek and spread throughout their empire. As another example of human unpredictability, Lisa stood among the ruins of the colony, already planning how to rebuild. The mining equipment could be repaired, and the tunnels had proven their worth as defensive positions. More importantly, they had proven that humans belonged among the galaxy's major powers. Jake addressed his people as Earth ships landed around the devastated colony. They had lost their homes but gained something far more valuable. They had shown the galaxy that humans would not be anyone's prey. The species that had traveled to the stars seeking new worlds had found their place among the greatest civilizations. In the universe, the Vorthek Empire's hunting traditions ended that day on Kepler 442b. Other species began to seek alliances with the remarkable humans who had turned predators into prey. The small mining colony became a symbol of human determination and the birthplace of humanity's emergence as a galactic power. The aliens had come seeking sport and entertainment. Instead, they had awakened something in humanity that would reshape the galaxy forever. The hunt was over, but the legend of Kepler 442b would live on as long as humans traveled among the stars.